this grid. It's fragile now, good collapse, and it's over to quick. Complexity of the greatest horses, the system of behind searching no others about the service result, and cascading for the push of dangerous competitions over the transmission method from these ways, but not exactly the physical ability, not physical crazy birdie, bird transforms so large, difficult to place, no longer use new ones, capability to use transmission grids, is agent increasing stress, leading especially multiple failures and movement in decades old lines of technology, and there are two separate internal links to collapse. First of all, environmental disasters, earthquakes, hurricane floods, tornadoes, AFP, and London United States not prepared for disaster to scale of change, digital research, so there's 9% responsibility, powerful earthquakes, and absolutely hurricanes, floods, tornadoes. Also, a geological studies prove huge earthquakes coming in the Pacific Northwest now, possible, and 12 studies for the central nuclear has on the Pacific Northwest scientists greater height and readiness for megathrows, and they're going to compare with the Japanese earthquake last year. The researchers conclude the clock is taking ahead of devastating earthquakes that are 8.792 long overdue, and a consensus of experts agree hazardous level usage represents a consensus of the Earth science community. The panel concludes that the zone and that's significant risk for damaging earthquakes, and a major quake would cause long-term grid collapse and render the diesel backup generators useless. Stock 1011 to 7.7 per second in-time magnitude construction needed for scientific capabilities, but also provide strong purpose as we have for assistance could have service for escaping region-wide failures infrastructure starting with the greatest endpoints of earthquake prevents vast greater damage for any disaster use history that could be lengthy. Outages across river states with rolling blackouts occurring in Chicago, the eastern, and elsewhere this also could be cascading effects of communication of critical infrastructure diesel public to panel dialect and function backup generating few will have sufficient hands to offset the power outages lasting weeks to months. Also, solar storms are coming. Status quo now. Panhandle in 1023. The Oak Ridge National Laboratory always somebody's advantage of storms occurred at once every 100 years. The 21st cycle we're peaking 2013. There's a high risk rate of the solar peak, and they collapse the grid. These collapse the grid. New technology fails to insulate. Thompson in 1219. Electrical transmission lines are beginning to storm compared to 85 could also be one of the greatest catastrophes in the record in history studies. Funded by the National Science House, a powerful solar systems can also knock out the surface over 100 million people, causing millions of dollars causing trillions of dollars in damage and storms of environment to develop instantaneously. 19 and relatively modest turbulent collapse. The grid of Quebec architecture is really designed to work around single point failures, 17 and there were 15 major failures. The rapid expansion of the grid has greatly increased the danger caused by solar storms accumulated inside. The surge also making the domestic electrical grid expand 10-fold of less damage. Really disaster power companies are just very well equipped to deal with the bad stress of weather, much less the extraterrestrial disturbances. Solar storm reduce much everything else than everyone's calling for help for neighboring transmission. Viable some of the newer technologies more vulnerable high level lines in recent years are interesting. The worst example of this concentrated manufacturing centers of the future size of commercial use electrical grid could be knocked offline for months, and other countries are insulated from solar storms disproportionately affecting the U.S. lines 9 and 11. The concerns about the subtle use of electrical storm concerned with GMT compared to the countries where the U.S. is located approximately Earth's magnetic north, where GMT effects are stronger. The U.S. has large number of long distance leads west ordered high voltage transmission line. U.S. also increasing amounts of high voltage transmission infrastructure, high voltage line to absolute tender for companies using the world of main machine transformers. Also, it will take years to restore absent the plan and next to 12. The replacement will also take many months for several years. Transformers required 12 to 16 months of manufacturing. Installing can take several months. The restriction required skill effort. The domestic manufacturing components has eroded. Next, first advanced explosions. A wanderless catastrophes will wreck. This is the advantage. Sorry. A wanderless catastrophe will wreck the grid. Hundreds of millions died immediately. Penny in 12. The aging infrastructure coupled with rising disaster threatened entire digital infrastructure. According to the digital catastrophic way with we got no commerce, no communication, no clean water. The trouble with the collision of powers and the most big problem is the host of any of which could croak. This includes hurricanes, snowstorms, thunderstorms, cyber attack, and the great EMP. Someone could easily take out computers. Anything good is also within money, which just when is down. Widespread emergency capacity render entire infrastructure uses losing be radically effective within a year. 9 out of 10 Americans would be dead from starvation, disease, and violence, and prolonged collapse causes a serious economic downturn in Montgomery. 12. Extreme weather 20 America's power system grew with divine storms, heating masses, the winter skies, winter storms, heavily tropical storms, service issues, super temperate, already daunting list of blackout triggers, threats for hacking to utilities, bad luck, catastrophic blackouts, and major blackout would have great consequences. Also, fundamental enrichment of our economy, and intervening actors can't solve commerce with the immediately collapse would take years to restore absolute plan. So bring go 12. The long range analysis of the National Academy of Sciences performs blackouts and trace already represented proportion long-term blackouts and lengthy restoration times chronic shortages for multiple years are possible. Commerce will also instantly cease water and fuel will stop flowing with this dark communication was also in backup generators of hospital military and the critical infrastructure vulnerable and if they panel diesel or natural gas relies on pipelines so death will run into the millions and hundreds of millions would die instantly. Barney's or Texas scale social media has grown so much that cannot be shut off. Certainly naturally cannot be ratcheted down without producing serious harm to the consequences of the responsible catastrophic many people may be deadly and going to continue conflict resource wars of poverty threat and order to the concrete primary exercise of social justice has high list of priorities questions not how treating status aid about social voice needed to be in social justice while avoiding and mitigating most certain consequences of our behavior while our understanding wanting and setting off and carrying out effects of civilization go away can only be doubled not reversed and independently the plan the absence of the plane grid collapse leads to 71 nuclear meltdowns goals and 11 after one of our own so good nuclear power plants the military station the light 30 meltdowns 71 nuclear plants and news are direct restoring solar magnetic storm these companies without electricity necessary for cooling products and batteries 71 Fukushima meltdowns there are also no intervening actors that solve the time 8 11 the power plants will constantly to radioactive people will also take less than a day for radiation if for after earthquake flood or nitro electrical power the risk of accidental used to the power plants reaction to core miles unless all current methods to employ the government also trains with cope with the parallel blackout such shopping generators a complete loss of electrical power was a major problem 11 you structures are designed to cope with the stage blackout lasting 8 hours 9 they're designed for blackout hours and energy assessment of a core meltdown could begin within 1 hour, and do not trust or impact events. We've been lucky to avoid the collapse of NRTC in 11. What if the meltdown occurred in the United States? What if 100 million 50 miles in power plant cannot afford to stand by such a steering boat that even if the reaction plan to stop the core and continue to fluid will erupt from the melt from decay into the cool wine process below the core of the metal ship will react with the steam producing solids hydrogen the power logic sauce for hours can lead to meltdown, releasing from plumes of radioactive material. Also, these outweigh Fukushima meltdowns. While 11 don't have historic release of radioactive material, Fukushima is smaller than the risk, both by institutions in the U.S. which are typically developed more radioactive material according to a study from the Institute for Policy Studies. Also, that car is edited for April's language. Also, Sandy Cruz great destructions have the potential to cause meltdowns. Grano and control the dangerous Sandy Cruz nuclear panels highlights vulnerabilities to destructive cooling systems, spent fuel rods, system camouflage, radiation release, small effects from the cooling system, operating NRC regulation not requires such resources to be connected to the fuel systems that compares the calculation pumps out operating full water within hours of spent the fuel wires in the bright light threatening contamination hundreds of square miles. This causes extinction, lost in 1. Radioactive life all over burning through the ground and water table reactive also media can carry around the globe between 200 will have square mile and permanently have overtaking reactive can deliver all future generations. This outweighs the U.S. Russian war magnitude of radiation gold and of widespread chemicals in nuclear power plants and billions of life radioactive nuclear weapons between the use and use of our massive amounts of radioactivity carried over was all over the planet. Also, independently chemical plant explosion leads to extinction Latina 3 casting power to sleep plants and refiners 24-hour operation can result in consequences more disastrous and large scale than those of atomic bombs which America got lucky this time. Next, advantage is disease. There are several BSL-4 laboratories spread throughout the country, right? In 9 BSL-4 laboratories at Atlanta University of Texas, San Antonio, Atlanta, Montana, and Montana. There's 7 operational BSL-4 labs in the U.S. and prolonged power outages lead to disease spread back in systems. Don't solve AGCNA. Backup power failures were written by the CDC, hiding orders of labs and people experiencing smallpox, Ebola, and other deadly diseases for deadly germs. Fortunately, there's no efforts of council at the time without the power labs can run negative air flow to help contain the germs. At the same time of the outage, no work was going on. CDC mechanical engineer Rose wrote that I have very little confidence due to the complexity of so many germs being connected. All controlled by one control system hasn't worked properly. Also, lab the worst pandemic in history, Begley in 12. The labs have been created by the uniform avian influenza can be transmitted directly among mammals and antibodies to the worst pandemic in history. Also from Minnesota, and this particular pandemic will be unstoppable. Class of 12, the likelihood of the virus is significantly pandemic too high. Would have been expected personalized to crowded city of war zone and unstoppable pandemic will also be disease starts also produced the pandemic potential 1918 with fatality, but potential 4 times greater. High probability decimates the global population doubly, and 12 medical experts created at the same time. There could be a pandemic of various infections and seasonal flu able to escape from this lack of the world population be decimated. PSL4 they escape least extinction under generic defense applies almost in 12. An accidental release of biological composite extension with a mutated virus could spread more easily, which would represent academic worse than history because a lot of rapidly expanding and there would increase less time to say more deadly organisms mass increase possibly of a loss of biosecurity detrimental effects which because the response of which is outside to assume the risk of that every materials accidental risk poses too much potential damage to rely on the government's and indicate the future risk of biology organisms taking the lab with unknown potentially establishing accidental risk next to solvency. Solar's key to effective disaster response. Don't think photographs being circulated solid liquid power during emergency such as related organization, not embrace attack, or the safety become more than PV technology, not for the hands-on experience to change the life of the government's support of paper. What has always been done before emergency cleansing, the updated from notable times emergency solar organization go with the know and how, and solar, the emergency generators are the only way for stable energy supplies by 7-11. Most operators look for the solution. The ability of the power to restore powers out the critical reducing cost of preventing collateral damage. The solar power is going to be distributed and made available as opposed to steel fuel power generators. There is no need to hope for emergency cleansing to try to guess what's going to hoping fuels will gas and mobile solar unit hoping what they guess is right. A mobile solar unit can act as a reserve for a couple hours in the city. If there's any disaster power in place, the panels can be easily washed away. Diesel fuels can be with water, but it's a major problem. The same as it applies to earthquake areas where the emissions were severe being prolonged. The solar is the only way to get long-term energy young and 3 people can build high any disaster viability to meet mandatory power not be out for long periods of time. Since refueling is not required in length of operation poses no problem. Solar power system are a solution because they can be designed to be sustainable in operation without utility power system, portable communication, medical clinics require non-polluting population. The Army Corps is the only way to solve the plan. Corps results in 9. The Army Corps for response to termination requiring the country to feel safe, rapid response to disaster no matter what. They occur the Corps to conduct training simulations and exercise the Corps to develop the method for analyzing disaster geological conditions, weather, and other practices allows us to target potential disaster areas nationwide. States of the art computer tracking public position for civil supplies and equipment in the areas will also be able to respond most quickly to response vehicles or street to the station so they can have on-site any disaster within 18 hours. I'm going to grab a college one.
It's about chemical reactions and these type of explosions that happens. What happens when a chemical explosion erupts? I guess you.
It depends on the chemicals, obviously, but I think the example that card says is hydrogen reactions can lead to if they're not separated and all of a sudden connect.
I guess I don't understand what the warrant is in this Latina card that says what actually happens during a chemical explosion.
I mean, you're correct that card does not go through each of the processes, and that's because chemicals react differently to each other, so it's hard to isolate. It just depends which chemicals the lab is actively working on at the time, what the volatility of those is, are they next to each other when
okay, so the Walden 11 evidence about how U.S. reactors are going to outweigh Fukushima, what type of studies or prediction, or no, sorry, it's not that card. It's the one about how meltdowns would lead to 71 Fukushimas. What studies is this based on, and how do we reach the conclusion that it would be Fukushima times 71?
Sure. So there are 71 plants in the USA that are at direct risk of solar megastorms because of their proximity to things like the grid transformers, and the wild card, which is the card you were not asking cross-legs, but says that the National Academy of Sciences has determined these are high risk of meltdowns. They contain more fuel sources, and they also do not have any coolant sources or electricity tied to the coolant sources.
Are we using any type of mobile solar power in the status quo now?
I mean, they exist in the status quo, and they're like probably small people who use it, but the Army Corps of Engineers.
So when we procure contracts for those, what role then does the Army Corps of Engineers play?
Sure, the Army Corps of Engineers responds with diesel in the status quo, and the Rhode Island plant they respond with solar.
What do you mean by that?
So they use diesel power generators in the case of an emergency blackout, so they try to power
Okay,
hospitals with
I
diesel.
understand now. Where is there any evidence in the 1AC that indicates that just using or like getting these procurement contracts for mobile solar power for the Army Corps of Engineers is going to create a trade-off between other industries of the world or other sectors that are using?
The argument isn't that like diesel generators like in Japan or whatever are bad. It's just the U.S. response to U.S. isolated grid collapse needs to be the solar power generators.
Right,
so
but
do it.
so I don't understand if the grid is fragile now and the grid is on the verge of collapse. I understand that solar power would be better for the grid, but I don't understand how the trade-off between mobile solar power and like exhaustible resources that we're putting on the grid, overstretching the grid now is.
That's not the point. Argument is not that we keep the grid running. It's that in case of the grid collapse, we'd be able to immediately respond and restore critical infrastructure back online.
Okay, so the app doesn't
No, grid
take
like
any
collapse.
stance on the grid collapse?
Well, I mean, we say grid collapse in a step. Grid is going to collapse the entire app. But our argument is not that like having mobile solar generators is a preventative action. It's a response to that grid collapse.
Okay, I guess I don't understand how just shifting the access that a certain industry has to solar systems would be an actual increase in
Well,
that
it's not
production.
just shifting. The resolution calls for an increase in incentives. Right now, the Army Corps of Engineers does not provide procurement contracts for solar generators. Therefore, it's a net increase from the status quo.
How does the procurement contract incentivize the Army Corps to use?
Sure.
renewables?
So the way that it works is they're like, we want to buy 40 mobile generators, and then they're like, fill out these applications, and you go for a bid system, and then you pick the most cost competitive ones.
Too off. First off, topic I, the app is not a financial incentive for energy production, but for development. Book in 2011, incentive cost ratios offer ways to measure the performance of financial incentive for energy production technologies that fall short of establishment markets require different type of government financial intervention, e.g. manufacturing assistance or preemptive competitive R&D in place of the production tax credits, different mode, better support, e.g. loan guarantees, tax credits, and procurement is not a financial incentive. Sinzaki in 2009, non-financial incentives including government guaranteed government purchases with special protection through tariffs, affording quotas, and investments in infrastructure and facilities, and procurement destroys are described as disaggregate new build and no link out of our incentives based targets by seeing it's not your type of incentive. Topic guys, voter fairness and competitive equity. Next off is each of their imagination of better world is continuation of this ideal dissociation of all that's good, not this world's presentation for only one with God. The terms case fantasizing about world habits, suffering, produce creative post love relationships life. Yeah, escape this paradox to resolve to Montreal in 2003 to imagine other more viable rules expression of hatred of the world that makes one suffer freedom, expecting acidic ideas longing for the world that's pure and naturalized my kingdom, not this world is longing for a world which one does not suffer escape. This world can neither illusory fictitious false world that's the quest for another world results of unproductive thinking and suffering is inevitable to drive to abolish the life of contempt, attention that should misfortune will to cultivate human greatness each in 1886 Timothy free to be sure is not sympathy to you to understand sympathy for social transfer society which is taken misfortune for every vicious and defective line around the ground and lie on the ground around us. We assume and yourself how you work from there moments when we do view your sympathy with indescribable anguish when we resist it to way of suffering and we would rather have an increase in way worse has ever been this simple great suffering. No, you not think it's no, you not it's only this discipline that he's produced all elevation to human the tension of the soul misfortune which communicates to an energy it's shuddering if you rack ruin and if it isn't bravery that your sympathy for creature man applies much to the fashion grief stretch or ferocious roasted and yield refined to which must necessary to suffer is meant to suffer and the ultimate result of this negative orientation toward the negative orientation towards life is the inability of life to its full study, affirmable life and contempt for its pains, never to see the life of suffering, starvation, and dying desire, to seek redemption for life, the creation of the future moral order, annihilates life in the present, this world's possible danger exists, becomes a direct restoration of biological life, avoid immediately from passive death. Each in 1872, again, a single traitor's party prefigured the spirit of deep distrust and defiance, which later on was to resist a bitter and any moral interpretation of existence whatsoever is here. One can find a peasant situated by good and evil, dark, entirely moral before using absolute standards which relegates all art to the realm of false and doing so condemns the strongly the theory of vindictive hatred, life, and that system of values with notions, and other better life, hatred of the world occurs with the effect of virtue, fears to be the situated, translates to upon the later mortal existence, yearning for extinction, the most dangerous, most sinister form of will. Destruction can take as a sign of profound seasons where so exhaustion consents according to absolute ethics, life will always be in the wrong, and later life is only able to retain through the eternal recurrence. Life is intrinsically valuable, its value comes from living life through the affirmation. Hicks and Rosenberg 3. Ancient employs demon to facilitate the acceptance of an alternative practical non-aesthetic doctrine for life. The myth of recurrence provides a disruptive strategy for finding intrinsic value in life, for the value of the process of living as an end in itself, not merely as a means to an end. The process provides a way to test one's attitude towards life. The form of effectively accepting the demons, crushing the message that those people who possess the courage of conscience joyfully react to it will not be tempted to esteem life by concentrating with the internal unalterable, superhistorical, or intrinsically good. The demon challenges to learn, meaning our own individual lives with possible alternatives as they ideal would have to supply whatever is necessary to affirm eternal recurrence, overcome the oppression of your present situation, if it prevents you from being sufficient sense of power of the effectiveness relation to the life, simply by devaluing life and celebration in the face of death provides a moment triumph in the lives of agony. Saran in 2000, Saran in 34. How would I love one day to see all people young and old, sad, or happy, men and women, married or not, be serious to superficially leave their homes and their workplace to relinquish their duties and responsibilities, guard the streets, refuse to do anything anymore, let those who suffer silently, not even uttering a science to complain, yell with all their might, making a strange, amazing distant clamor that would shake the earth, wildfire spread rapidly and terrifying moves drown out everything, study the small sand would know that the end is near, all let all forms become formless and chaos, all the structure, the world of gigantic mouse, let there be tremendous commotion, noise and terror and explosion, let there be eternal silence and total forgetfulness, and those almost all humanity has felt hope until now, hope, regret, love, despair, and hatred explode with such force, nothing is left behind without it. Such moments to be the triumph of nothingness from the final hypothesis not being, and the forcing to debate to be instrumental desirability imposed mastery and violence into Roman politics is rather that places debate with absolutism and totalitarianism sword, and 96 rule-based conception of political action assumed a hegemonic natural status from the transformation of Western civilization created the intellectual framework and necessity of the interpreting politics as a rulership or modern notion of politics, consequence of the will, the truth, politics to be conceptualized only the ordering of the society according to the world of forms through this transformation, the concepts of mastery, control, and violence, and stupidly imposed the realm of politics and the political action because measures in terms of the ability to actors to replicate an ideal form, the instrumentalize the model of politics, evaluates the action solely on the grounds of the means and calculus research evolving and doing internal regression of ungroundable utility. The essence of platonic conception of political action is the ability to ground the final end through recourse of unquestionable truth, market the truth. All the questions of political consideration, miss point of criticism about is an ethical choice to save ourselves white and 90. The most provocative teachings I have had in Nietzsche are not political but ethical, and Nietzsche does not attempt to tell us how to save the world, but how to save ourselves from living lives that we will come to view with regret, with pride, and the battle must be used as ethical actions instead of role-playing, really transforming our own personal relationship with suffering can solve Newman. In 2000, rather than having an external enemy like the sea, we must work ourselves, we must overcome resentment by transforming our relationship with power. One can only do this through eternal return. The overcome resentment with the firm with the willpower to overcome oneself as it stands with me, and overcome the essentialist identities and categories that limit us. We are constructed as essential political subjects in ways that dominate us. We hide behind the essential identities that deny power, produce through denial, and the alternatives to embrace suffering is something positive necessary to life. Reject the idea that suffering is something to be avoided. Risk no day. The first possible deconstruction of religion, I think, to be suffering that undeniable will ultimately use emendation deleterious means providing a meaning for human suffering. Say Nietzsche endorses the idea of giving suffering to the meaning of suffering through acknowledging it is necessary role in human enhancement, greatness. Nietzsche's positive term will embrace is necessary role. Suffering has for the enhancement of human life. Our something that needs to be modified, that we should modify so no suffering is something to be avoided. And in the face of horror and existence and willful affirmation of suffering allows us to retain agency by submitting it to voluntarily. Are we able to experience happiness in life? Cain and 7. Imagine yourself with a migraine. Imagine yourself in the fever state, experiencing nausea and vomiting. This has been going on for years. You have accomplished nothing. This state has led you to see the horror of existence now. Imagine that's your worst moment. The demon appears. This tells you that you have to will to live your life innumerable times more. Every bit of suffering will return exactly the same over and over and over again. And if you were able to love your life so completely that you would not want to change a single moment of suffering, eternal recurrence shows that the horror exists. No matter what you say about your life, how happy you are, claim to be eternal recurrence brings out the basic horror in life. That is nothing new that does it. We hope for something new, something different, something, some improvement, some progress, or at least some distraction, some hope that if ruled out. So suppose you can look back over your life and feel as a good one would. You want to live again. What is your life? Joy life Nietzsche was able to see that the life of intense pain and suffering is perhaps the only life that really makes sense. And when it makes sense to want to live again, Nietzsche was ill. Suffering, intense migraines, nausea, vomiting. He tried everything. His suffering was out of control, dominated his life and determined every activity. What did he want to do it out of suffering? He decided to submit it to voluntarily. He knew that fully, and he would not change that. Not change one single detail of his life, not one moment of pain. He decided to love his fate, market of fate, and advance to first is aliens. The best estimates put the number of alien civilizations 2,000 Drake and 2002 abiotic can involve in not just one intelligent species, but many so complex life should occur, but we all place in time. They produce one or more intelligent species, but they will not appear simultaneously. First, we'll look around and find this intelligent species. The optimistic view of the new system of intelligent technology using creatures appear about once per year based on the extrapolation from own experience. Let us make a guess that civilizations, technologies detect watch for 10,000 years. In that case, there are at least 10,000 detectable civilizations out there, marketed there. And to be time travel, first is matter, energy concentration, time allowing time travel. Cocoon 94, the curvature of bending of space and time is determined by the matter of energy content of the universe is possible to find. Configuration matter, energy, powerful enough to force the bending of time allowed for time travel. Also, because time travel is impossible, humans find a way to do it. Pick over 98. Research the proposed ways in which the backward and forward types of machines can be built that do not seem to violate any laws of physics. Remember, the laws of physics tell us what is possible, not what is practical for humans at the point in time. Do not believe anyone who says that humans will never have efficient technology for backward and forward time travel. And time travel causes infinite repeating loops that destroys the universe. Randall, and no data. Imagine that you asked your best friend not to go back in time before you were born and kill your granddad. Also, you had no forethought to tell him while he's back there, right? If no to force yourself to go back in time and kill the man who would be your granddad. When your friend is given the instruction to go and kill your granddad from you, you might do one thing. When he receives a no from his future self, he might do another. If he does another thing during the second repeat, he must do a different thing. The third, the change again. And one iteration of the loop would result in a change in the would result in a change in the next iteration. Eventually, he'll do something that ends up breaking down the loop. This results in infinite repeating loops. Starting in infinite repeating loops causes the universe to end. And this is the thought experiment. Sometimes suicide is the only option. Koji and ordinate. Oh, does his mode of reflection pay enough attention to the irredeemable moments of destruction, harm, pain, and suffering inflicted historically by human action in the non-human world? There are, after all, a variety of negative consequences of human action, moments of destruction, moments of suffering, which may not be irredeemable or ever made better. What we try to do is draw some of the consequences reflecting more broadly upon the negative costs of human activity in the context of environmental catastrophe. It is important to make clear that the argument for the global suicide humane is present in the thought experiment itself to show that certain conceptions of modernity does not, which is the approach of it represents problematic, taking seriously the idea of global suicide is one way to throw into question the ideology, the dominant discourse of modernist humanist action by giving voice to the idea of human free will. We attempt to draw some of the asymmetries of environmental reality that give cause to the question why attempts to build bridges from the human to the non-human have so far been unavailing subjects to ethical discourse while dominant presumption that underlies many modern scientific and political attitudes towards technology.
The alternative is to embrace suffering as something positive and necessary. Does that include the possibility of the case of grid collapse responding to solar power?
The alternative does not do the app.
It does not do the app. Okay. So I guess if the alternative is to embrace suffering as something positive and necessary to life, what piece of evidence in the 1 and C do you think you read that equates suffering with death?
Wait, say that again?
What piece of evidence in the 1 and C do you think equates the word suffering with physical death?
This last piece, the Kane evidence that we read underneath the alternative talks about how we have to find horror within our existence and affirm that horror.
Right, and I guess the front line is imagine yourself with a migraine, imagine yourself in a fever state, experiencing nausea and vomiting.
The Saran
evidence seems to be substantially different than
the Saran evidence also talks about how we should laugh in the face of things like death happening, because when we do that, it allows us to have some
laugh
sort of
in the face of death by natural causes or aging or things like that. We shouldn't be afraid to die. I guess I'm kind of confused. What piece of evidence do you think is talking about mass extinction?
The Saran evidence says that we should look at things like mass chaos happening and understand that when that ultimately happens, we should look at it and laugh at it and realize that that allows for us to affirm life and understand that that gives us some sort
let's talk about that then. So let's say like I'm walking on the street and I see like a little kid about to walk in front of a car under your framework, which says it should be self-concerned. Can I pull the kid away from the car?
I think there's a difference.
What's the
Chris,
difference
you wanna
then?
take this?
Yeah, Nietzsche draws a delineation between suffering that is part of the human condition and suffering that is like caused by external events.
Okay, let's
human
talk. That's the
condition-based
distinction I wanted to get to.
Right, human condition-based suffering would refer to like reasons why we go to war. Like war is inherently part of that.
Why is
condition,
a
and
grid
war is
collapse
extinction.
not an external extinction scenario
What did you
versus the
say?
human? You just said there's a difference between things caused by human condition and external conditions. Obviously, humans did not cause the grid collapse because it's caused by a solar storm. Why is that not?
That proves our argument. Things that are caused outside of our control is suffering that we should embrace. I think that your app is uniquely true about that. And also the
reason
instance of
why
human
for this
condition
is like
based
some weird theory of resentment and all these things. Basic psychoanalysis. What studies like quantify or prove that like these feelings of self-resentment and everything are true?
Nietzsche says that trying to quantify those feelings or trying to label what the resentment means to individuals is bad.
I guess I'm kind of confused. And so like I personally don't want to die from a solar storm taking out the grid, but I'm pretty happy with myself. I like life. Why doesn't that disprove the chain?
We're probably just going to win an argument that the alternative would be able to make your life better.
Why? I like hitting basketball they're playing today. That's all I really care about. Like, that's good enough. Why does that mean that we should allow extinction in the face of the alt?
I don't know why the app is irrelevant at that point. Like, that seems like you would be engaging.
Because it preserves physical
just like
existence
accepting
for
life as it is.
Oh, that's fine. That's fine.
One, we meet the plan provides funding for solar energy production in the U.S. and has sufficient evidence for violation. Their interpretation is bad. So point A, this is Ceda evidence says financial incentives includes providing land or buildings. Later in the book it says overseas assignment of tropical Ceda, and not a financial incentive to accept an assignment overseas. And B, it defines incentives for foreign investments. So a government purchase would be a trade agreement. And 3 is counterinterpretation. Financial incentives for energy production must directly target monetize produce energy to meet this. The plan is paying for solar from drawers. And 12, financial incentives, investment incentives along with the cost of technology production incentives provide payment for the electricity produced. The aim is to monetize generation on production basis. These incentives assure the investments resulting in energy, whereas the incentives the potential to be invested in projects do not materialize. So for this interpretation is best for Lindsay excludes financial mechanisms that target related behavior. It's also the most precise because it defines the phrase which links to predictability. 5 is financial incentives include procurement. Their interpretation allows indirect tax credits loans instead of 193 financial incentives mean disbursement of funds to induce certain behaviors that take the form of procurement, contract, ability, definition, regulatory purposes, and incentive factor. The definition becomes more manageable and 6 is best for ground that procurement avoids vacuum space kind of debates and finding incentives based on production losses. Stable neg grant app. Flex is best and neg has conditionality against more legally. You should air an app on top of the often sequence. It encourages arbitrary lines, creates a race to the bottom, and cries that substance. We meet their production argument because the solar panels themselves are energy and interpretation and installation of solar panel, solar energy production, and DOE and AD energy production is define the transpiration and natural resources and commonly used forces and forms of energy such as electric, by this definition of shining in the sun or not. Energy production and installation of solar panels are the crucial ingredient in the application of technology to change the natural resources and useful energy forms. This is the only way to have a solar app without mixing burdens. The grid page, there's no way they can turn the case because things like that, our perception of human suffering are not what caused the physical extermination of people. Which a hedge on advantage too. Humans are critical to save the universe from big children, big country, big bang, brain bats, and we outweigh all your scenarios from Zay and one. Our species guided by a century scientific theoretical research in the nature of the human creature. Our ultimate place around the evolving universe capacity to vitalize, bring life, order, creativity, and novelty to everything intelligence said. The world and completely new evolutionary trajectory of the human species could develop tools to save the universe, and human technology is crucial to avoid future unknown catastrophes that could potentially wipe out all life from posture to. We should not blame civilization or technology for imposing big existential risks. Technology or trust avoiding existential risks, therefore we nailed the technology. We have some chance and super intelligent machines solve all flaws from posture. Some super intelligent machines ready to last efficient human beings that make we far more effectively and practically all intellectual depths and strategic thinking, scientific analysis, technological capability, and technological process is not inevitable from posture. And 2, one can imagine a fundamentalist religious or ideological movement one day coming to dominate the world. This might permanently put a lid on human potential to develop a post-human level economic and technological progress. May not be as inevitable as they used to be. Advocating extinction justifies genocide and the Holocaust from lights to Nate. It's a bit like seeing the Nazi Holocaust in matter because the high progress war broke through student replacing 6 million deaths unknowingly. Got this line of sugar crime and more speaking of cruel genocide. The most destructive war of each person in uniquely valuable age species is surely more so, and it's not an intrinsic human beings could just could also could just choose not to develop time travel and to connect star. They must consider all future human generations and calculus from Sandberg and 8 North human extinction receive scans, scientific attention and perils, all large sense for as long as there are humans who are trying to have 500 trillion people yet to come. There is a discontinuity between the risks that threaten 10% by 90% of human and those that threaten 100% for disasters. Physical species could recover reducing extinction risk to dominate our considerations. There's no aliens subpoint A theoretical research confirms reliable empirical evidence. Real difficult to where F and Gonzalez 98 the most reliable external factors have do the most basic requirements for life. Those are distance from a parent star, type of parent star, suitability star, systems that is parent rest along with the population will cross danger wise supernova plate technologies regulated CO2, the danger by giant molecular cloud destructive cometary impact requirement of oscillation perpendicular to the black plane located very close to the Milky Way, understanding chemical elements constraints to the timing as located to happen world size. Plane danger by galactic outburst physical characters and necessity of cyber giant planes requirement to minimize obliquely variation. Black holes nearby galaxies of planetary magnetic field by solar wind and stellar wind the gamma reverse the planetary disk. There are other timing considerations needed sufficiently high concentration along with radioactive the variation in the eccentricity of how stars orbit must not be too large and increase levels associated power are against more than a handful of ETIs and the Milky Way orbits and high ratio avoids many assumptions inherent in the theoretical versus theoretical approach tries to answer the conclusion the empirical evidence leads us to only Earth cosmos.
Just read time travel and go on.
Okay.
There's no chance for time travel.
From discovering Hong Kong physicists said they need a single proton to activate its travel faster than speed like this demonstrates that time travel is possible to improve. A single photon unit of light will basically travel around the universe and study it. It was peer reviewed from discovering all the teams. Studies published by peer reviewed scientific journal physical review. Attaching ions can exist from 1 to 12. They doesn't exist in the umbrella from potential for close. String attaching ions on from below in all different directions. Studies are really never ending instability destroys the space-time battery behavior and it won't destroy space-time from your scientists and find the laws and spits seem to prevent time travel with a paradoxical situation such as the possibility people could go back in time to prevent their travel for the chance that such paradoxes may be ruled out by the weirdness inherent in the laws of quantum physics. Top of the K framework. The affirmative should win if the action of the plan is preferable to the status quo or a realistically attainable political alternative. The negative interpretation itself, serving an arbitrary weighting the affirmative is key to fairness. The one AC is the source of all two AC opposites. The most important speech of thousands. A way to question our pedagogy. Another interpretation justifies picking out of one word. The one AC has infinitely aggressive and destroys competitive equity. We should evaluate consequences first as continue to accomplish anything. One must tend to the means to bring the back and serve moral goodness under practical force, possibly politics, battle, intent, consequence, self, pursuit, good generates the people of influence and policy through running foresight from curse on for the lines of political cleavage are being drawn on to begin dystopian visual line past disasters to recur scene as unbearable and suffering future generations calloused tolerate survival jeopardized to being imaginary can enable transnational socio-political action globalization from below the preventive foresight is process of address between the warners and the warned the drivers and effectiveness critical debate publicly signifies the weak but safety overlapping constituencies of coalescing measures to avoid the specific global catastrophes society having little direct capacity oriented civic association every kind of significant public opinion formation individuals are being brought together to embrace communities that transcend geographical borders to dense meaningful knowledge of impending catastrophes can reach out to the four corners of the preventive foresight consistent prototypes between citizens circulation plus energy and the ethos of cause when politicians and mobilize in which publics that debate market debate and the rejection of politics and the idea the world changed a nice life internal link during the whole critique may find engaging political organizing contributors to make you and you what you are those when you are seeking to change the world is not a moment in which you don't seek to change the world to offer a new form of life celebration to articulate fresh waiting you refuse to experience to resign yourself and you talk with Zoom both opinions struggle to change the world and the opportunity to celebrate life with it you should prioritize preventing extinction because the United States is the law the enterprise are required to maximally grow each presence of more percent the better demands on the state from life and capable of to engage the world is the matter of acting in a way that's external from life the fact that action the response and recognition once again is the most important way the bulk of use reasonable reservations grounds for doing little is the denial of our responsibility because the collective failure to acknowledge our responsibility to dealing with back ourselves in the parts of military combat simply the only option permutation do both with permutation to the plain the alternative and all other instances make the this rejection or instance is key even if extinction is never taking steps both for the self-suffering gas value to life from abstaining out 9 minutes but also by the highest level of self-awareness spending life on earth this suggests the pure concepts of human extinction like to become a have more suffering than with any previous species event such may be used by the women that could post extinction this could pay dividends and minimize the eventual cumulative burdens of human suffering don't endorse the gender language in that card suffering is not an popular argument confused frustration or suffering made from the anchors the subject is the attitudes wasting life it's unfree from suffering life is suffering but is self-proclaimed suffering nevertheless is going to obvious distortion the most cursory observation reveals for many people are happy a great deal of time or at least they are certain the claim that they would separate failure separate from their frustration and desire frustration may never be close to a constant life but it not be accompanied by suffering is bad it makes life worse for many from the end not all suffering makes it better housing abuse child suffering and it makes it bitter eventual and manipulative understanding possibly activities and mold or reason for it distinction the intrinsic evil suffering for which whatever instrumental value may produce there's also a difference between suffering and actually dying from BSL for disease in which everyone's wiped out pain denies meaning and actively exudes that life from project and talents and pain is worse than meaningless not only just lack of urgent meaning also drains meaning for everything remaining attention actively impoverishes not bring back humans together but isolates them and their argument of relations is trying to reduce suffering and consume all human existence in the project extinction or what? Extinction should outweigh from Boston to love extinction risks are severely underestimated by society. Extinction risk mitigation can be a dominant moral priority or alleviation presence of a human. Life is human life. If you have to point of view the future, may a generation matter proportion numbers and extinction risk mitigation has much higher utility than anything else. There's so many people who could come to the system of the future of human. Stars may outlive for billions of years as since by Congress billions of stars and there could be billions of stars we believe a very small reduction of the possibility of realizing the storm's goodwill. Take outweigh the immense benefits like eliminating poverty or curing malaria. There's infinite value to life from Ceda, and I too it is impossible to engage an estimated worth itself for resisting existence beyond the value of the worth. It is indefinitely no value without it within existence worth more than existence never to use to justify the risk of extinction. Unjustified whatever existence is better than nothing. It's a prerequisite to value or existence is a prerequisite to value life. And 3 freedom and choice allows people to choose conception of the good life and it is fundamental importance that we be able to rationally assess our conception of the good life to light anew, refer to experiences and to revise them. Their method for value life is flawed psychoanalysis, rules and beetles, and for Gordon, in one of the tragedy political project emancipation machine is inevitably disappointed intellectuals find about intellectual alibis from the very work of champion, including by psychoanalysis. Psychoanalysis offers a world is sort of alibi for capacity and fulfilled by every turn we are nothing represents the claim. Radicalism psychoanalysis is not a radicalism all. That's not good at all.
Let's talk about you're reading with the purple highlighting. I don't know if y'all there.
Yeah.
But it gives. Where do you think this says that aliens don't exist, or doesn't? Don't
I
have
think
the
this
option to
provides
exist?
a bunch of reasons, which I spend a bunch of time reading. Like 20 reasons
Yes,
why
all
it's
of those
highly
reasons-
unlikely that life could be found
Yes,
anywhere.
all of those reasons are equated within the Drake equation that prove aliens exist.
Right.
I guess I'm.
Well, interesting. Drake says it's highly improbable, which is a separate argument. But this, I guess, bolsters the claim that Drake makes that it's almost impossible that aliens exist. That no actual odds are carried out so
This
far.
argument also makes the Drake
argument
argument is a theoretical reason for why alien life is possible, but empirics, which is what this card evaluation should be prior to it, because it confirms your theoretical reasoning
Okay.
are empirically flawed.
Let's talk about the extinction debate. If there's no value to life, then what's the point of living? You say extinction comes first to prioritizing life.
Right.
If we
Well,
don't have
there's
value,
infinite
what's
value to
the-
life. That's arcade of evidence, and our Kimika piece of evidence says
What does
that
it mean to
shouldn't-
have infinite
you
value
shouldn't
to
take
life?
that choice away from people, right? So, like, my 5-year-old cousin is super happy because Jeff Whippy's playing today, so we can watch Jeff Whippy on the TV. I shouldn't kill my 5-year-old cousin
because
Does
I've
the
decided
alternative ever
that
ask you to do that? Like, I guess I'm confused where you're.
Well, I mean, functionally, it means that if I see my 5-year-old cousin getting in danger of having a nuclear meltdown, destroy his house.
Okay, I don't think you understand the
I
criticism.
shouldn't just let him.
Okay, so if there's no value, what's the point of living?
There's always potential value, and obviously even when there's zero
There's
value to life,
potential.
then like you probably would decay, but like we're contesting that claim.
Right.
Okay. What about, okay,
We
suffering
would
not
also
inevitable.
foreclose the
Your
possibility of
Merrifield-
anybody in the future.
Merrifield 99 evidence.
Yep.
Where
So
does it
there are
assume?
some kinds of suffering
Yeah,
that are
where
not
does it
foreclosed.
assume things like disease, starvation, etc. Isn't inevitable in the status quo? Why, or is inevitable in the status quo? Why does that, like, where does that
I mean,
Merrifield
even if
evidence
some of those
assume
things are inevitable, like child abuse is probably inevitable. That doesn't mean that it's a horrific thing that should be acted
Once again, not part of the criticism.
Well, I mean, it's difficult to draw a distinction saying that child
think it's
abuse we
difficult to
don't
draw that
like
distinction
because
at all.
we've
That's
decided it's
the
morally
whole
reprehensible, but standing back while people die very painful diseases from things like smallpox.
Let's talk about the
It's
framework
okay.
debate, the Kurosawa evidence about changing the debate community.
Yep.
People say you have to imagine the implementation of the plan all the time. What does that change?
This Kurosawa piece of evidence says that it means that we can be empathetic because we can imagine what extinction would be like. So we'd be like, well, a bunch of different people would die, and I would share in that. And so I can reach out to those people in foreign linkages. I can lobby people to try to take steps against that. I can
Alright,
work together in a productive
Are
space
there
to
any
try to ensure that doesn't
theory
happen.
reasons to reject the team?
Huh?
Theory reasons to reject the team?
I don't think so.
And then perm to both, and then all other instances?
Yes.
Also, can we just get a speech doc with just the
Well,
cards you
and
wrote in it? The intrinsic cards.
Okay, well,
Whatever. What? Can we just get a speech doc with only the cards you wrote in it?
Ready?
Life's only about is aesthetic, the only activity worth undertaking, that which makes life a work of art in which seek out that which can confirm the entirety of life is beautiful rather than denying it's ugly. The only constant in reality is change, all it is becoming the constant, the eternal return, not that we will live the same day again, with the sun will rise and fall again, the life goes on, the constant celestial plane forces, wills, and becomings will go on even when the sun itself ceases to be. The thought of the innocence, that's the eternal play, is that which redeems life because it affirms the innocence of becoming and denies guilt. The eternal change will bring us but pain and pleasure. The question is whether we affirm this part of the beautiful never-ending dance of life, or deny the innocence of becoming, making everything in life guilty for itself, and damn the whole of life in the process. Framework. We meet your framework interpretation. We're the status quo, the world of positive makers, and nearly that to result about the nihilism because it's based on the resentment and the desire for a better world before one takes aside nihilistic world of policy makers. But first side the prior question of the attitude to take towards life from when it's more important to reject nihilism. That's read from the 1 and C14 debate being about instrumental desirability and post-mastery bonds of the world politics is the choice debate with absolute and totalitarianism. We're waiting eternity. Your framework here. Nothing happens when you vote affirmative and instead vote negative as a means of establishing an ethical relationship with suffering. If we win, that alternative is good in the abstract. You should vote negative. It's Kane and 7. Suppose we are to just not just get ourselves smart to find research of his characteristics, these supposed research right, and just teach us all to commit the eternal recurrence that we felt the fact of when we end it's hard when you actually accept the matters not responding for using act. Actually, we read this card in the 1 and C. It's extended above. My bad. And you can extend the white knight evidence as a questions of political consideration. Miss the point of the criticism, balance, and ethical choice to say which also needs a we or a prerequisite to your type of methodology. And the new and zero evidence says that the ballot must be used in ethical actions. Hold conceded. Your role the ballot is the new and evidence that instead of role playing, only transforming our personal relationship with suffering can solve. The 2EC doesn't speak a word to the framework for the 1 and C, and that is bad. She says even if we prove that the method of apps follows the endpoint can be accurate, which means that you should vote affirmative. Literally, the worst standard for debate ever that would justify KU standing up and saying racism good for 9 minutes, but if they have an interlink to eating cookies, the endpoint is justifiable. Having to know if we prove that your method is flawed when you're conceding coming out of 1 and C, then we win. Our impacts that flawed methodology, the affirmative framework would be fine if our criticism wasn't based primarily on your flawed methods of calculation and policy making. Link debate. The link of this debate is predicated upon assumptions made by the affirmative based on the actual rejection of extinction and human suffering. Wouldn't link this argument equally predicate on any risk of the affirmative calculation of energy used to push human suffering and destruction farther into the future. Waiting for us to link means we wouldn't interlink the impact based simply on the inevitability of that impact, even if the affirmative wins the 1 sees an instance of good rejection of suffering on war grounds. It would lose this argument because the effects of the 1 don't avoid the third notion of the criticism. We're also critiquing the morals that you stand from within the 1 of this debate also holds the reason why the permutation will perpetually fail. But moreover, our obsession with survival is unnatural. That's the natural part of life. We're forced to live death, life to survive in order to fear death. We tend to stabilize the earth, involving ourselves in lives of Mozart and 7. It is generally thought the essential survival is logical cause of life, the right to life. The two things are the contrary to life, not the question of rights, and life is not survival, which are artificial. That's not being forced to fight, fear, to live, fear, and simulation, but life to search survival, just the present conditions, which might be first things to exercise the touch, maybe the artificial natural from the presence of rightly elements, life sacrifice, and forms survival, real life, which is the after all, the death appears as an artificial survival, real things, sacrifice, and the estimate, tries the artificial clone, it designed to make death by tools, relation, days, survival, death, brain, besides that, the abominable life, survival must be what is anticipation about the insane prevention, spread, not trained self by the natural intelligence, certified about physical knowledge, the virtue of the artificial intelligence market there, and the affirmative is fixated on ending suffering like disease, but in the process it negates the very things that make life for living must embrace the nature of the existence as a chaotic and painful in order to truly live. Cadence 7. We can all expect that the being suffered was not, so that's a problem. The human beings live suffer was that not live so we can suffer. We live in empty beings, hospital, not the reality without being over what stop wishing energy becomes kind of thing. Focus on to make progress and not reduce suffering, keep loving well to make us see sudden simple, conciliate and terrifying causes live and must also talk ourselves into suffering out less. Hamlet, we should be able to feel the ridiculous, we should be able to set our right points, world national words, this is the action, which was the illusion we've been being great illusion, character, sex, forms, words, or some rational place, and patiently to celebrate the poets Christians have. That's about suffering, spite, focus, and all the kinds of change, time to reduce suffering, empower resistance, make progress, perhaps not honestly, cards to space, not really the sense of which we've already have been testing, starting doubts, not something further. Technology may not be able to prove that we have largely made disease, but we have further produced cancer and heart disease, even if we can show that we possibly statistically reduce suffering, spare life, we will eliminate a market there. And moreover, the link from the 1 and C is that the link from the 1 and C is pretty clear. They create the aesthetic ideally from which says the 1 and C is an instance of a good rejection will justify the link to the criticism, but small events may be predictable and contain life, but earth-threatening catastrophes follow non-linear patterns of render national management crisis useless. This is Derderian. In 5, behind the metaphysical consequence of U.S. Homeland Security, there is an necessary recognition of the U.S. self-sacrifice has advanced the answers around the has gained into global events and needs just national plans for us to make them fight for suffering, terror, side hand, deficits, some part of the problem, solution, the use of power, cycles, catastrophe, television, that's not the level, and national capabilities, thoughts, conditionally for self-inspection, the late on the nuclear surface of discourse, late push, was a criticism turned down the world because of national security realism based on later notion of causality, corresponds to roots, happen, realism, possibly found let alone prepare for right for remedies for complex crash, for events, such laws, conflicts, non-linear origins, national security, of course, simply not to the task, and furthering a false insecurity, amplifies damage, catastrophe, caution, bites, linked to the criticism, harder returns the case, Derderian, and 5, avoid the failure of imagination, builds national system, once applied to link catastrophe, efforts out to reduce capability, flexibility, and facts, yield to fact to the tip, once sports case narratives applied, simulation training, sense, the world, order, grades, common barriers, and fast, hold, and provide, business tools, force, multiply, organization, there, stats, cascade, effects, about the automated public transformation, defense tools, tactical, disaster, myself, the ultra catastrophe, no longer perception, now, part, and partial, the dense working network may define national argument. She says may, and a link turn, but the alternative best confronts balance of what I see by engaging in political reconstruction, democratic practice, the weakness of the political process demands a Socratic basis of argumentation within the institution that favors the pure decisionism of Nietzsche's theory, the intelligent debate space is critical, this advocacy is below, in no date, Nietzsche formally criticized longer constructs that's thing on blue form democracy, institution argumentation, and political and social bags, which implies which is rich, characterized time, that's concerned, advance, that firmly on the part pain, and faith in itself, which identifies words, the weak frustration, sharing, if this hostile defense, this Socratic delusion, the government's words, silence, legislative spark, baby, committee, search, classification, democracy, one to the end, democracy, times, the institution, multiplication, performing situation, false rule, upon the only starts, the alternative, in government, its views, the arbitrary, sex, talk, this building, work, straight, subversive, justice, quality, and seats, food, false, states, and deliberation, means rights, the decisions are in the direction, translation, of the politics, the moderation, includes represented bodies, or the whole democratic set practice, short circulated by Nietzsche in favor of the clear decisionism, also extended or Derderian evidence from above realism can possibly account for uncontrolled catastrophe, which means that the methodology of politics and policy making has been empirically denied, which means that we have an external advantage. The alternative is overly well for the 1AC and go to the alternative debate first. Examine the risk of the evidence from the 1AC only assurance says the alternative to embrace suffering is something positive necessary to life must reject the suffering is something to be avoided. This evidence is pretty good on the words behind this mentality. They say that not everyone will be able to do the alternative. They make this press and cross-examination that people will not be able to free themselves. But one is argument is asked to feel see large group of people to not just get tortured or locked up cage. This is an entire social structure play that the immobilized community makes desire its own slavery. It's simply saying that we have to take action against oppression. Cries control the real issues, reactive nation society, the world, the alternative where we refuse to condemn and make them guilty, we're becoming existent, we affirm life, have a reason to fear difference, or attempt to abolish the exercise machines that we approach we reapproach the root cause basis of this debate. We're better than the 1AC does. The 2 argument here is that aesthetics is more important, how we relate to pain is more important than whether or not hurt or not pain is inevitable. Only choice is whether or not become or refuse to gain the guilt, and doing so reading life, and your arguments about the all being capable of transiting individual resistance make no sense. Debate isn't it? The debate doesn't leave the argument. The debate leaves the room. The argument is twofold. First, the evidence indicates from the people who are incapable of making the transition should be left behind in order to escape the sets of the alternative. Your second, the entire ideal that resign is indicative of this mentality, your natural reaction to resist the alternative because you're enacting form of security. Some mental locks you in the terminal failure, and they say that suffering is bad, but their suffering evidence is born unwarranted. It really says that there are some varying levels, degrees of suffering. Not our argument suffering is a inevitable part of life. Accepting and overcome suffering is key to an affirmation of life. That's upon having our evidence of reading coming out of 1AC. Moreover, suffering empowers people. It allows people to get rid of both values, beliefs, and making them an overall better person, which is peace. And then 99. The act of finding human suffering means person environment such an individual greater than the other human beings, false love, which cast vital effects, life beliefs, make the meaning, life, the emerge of the free herd, or better face and encourage the ups, the heart, spirits, words, the entire depth of transformation, rather than affirmation. And they're making an argument here that the alternative leads to more suffering or causes suffering, but acting against oppression is not mutually exclusive with the alternative. Rather, a question of how you relate to others. Alternative is a personal one where you
embrace the struggle of life and affirm its beautiful joys, destroying all forces that stand our way. We do not act to bring about to Tokyo and be up for the sake of being for the struggle itself. Moreover, the bottom of this suffering debate is going to be devastating for a couple of reasons. One, I think that we're making a pretty devastating analysis between the difference between human-based conditions of suffering. Moreover, the preventable conditions of human suffering. I think Melanie Hansen's argument when she says that we cannot control the collapse of the grid because it's caused by external factors. This is direct evidence I'm making this topic, which means that we have a unique link to the suffering that happens as a result. We cannot control the suffering. I think that this is going to be the best because the disaster-born arguments that Derrida makes at the top of the link debate is going to be devastating. Moreover, this is literally just a disaster response app, which means that we're just trying to clean up the world after it falls apart. This is literally the aesthetic ideal, and Nietzsche says that when we try to create this aesthetic deal, we become trapped. The resentment, which is the internal being of ourselves in which we try to overcome things that are inherently bad, and we end up re-entrenching them, which means that the alternative not only solves back the propensity and the root internal cause of the one but also solves our ability to deal with that type of disaster porn after the grid has collapsed, which means that we have a better way to solve the one than that actual plan text does.
If I catch smallpox, I would suffer a lot. How would I be stronger as a result of that?
I mean, scientifically, if you were to survive smallpox, your immune system would be pretty fallen after that, and you probably would get
Right,
smallpox
but there's
again.
no vaccine, so I would die. How would I be stronger?
What do you mean? I mean, people can be immunized against smallpox.
Okay, so
I mean, these are things that, like,
Sure.
these
Let's
are
imagine
things-
hypothetically that the government had created a disease for which there was no vaccine. If I caught that disease and died, how would I be stronger or better off?
I'm not sure what you're asking, like, in terms of disease. Like, what kind of disease is this? Our evidence
I'm
draws
asking you to
delineation
contextualize the K to
Right,
the
I'll
one I see
contextualize it.
myself
Our evidence is
working.
very specific in context of disease. It says that while we may be able to reduce suffering as a result
Right.
of things like the flu or
Okay.
gonorrhea or chlamydia,
Sure.
we've still created AIDS. Like,
Okay.
there is still something greater that would come as a result of trying to prevent that disease, i.e.
So this is
having
all
vaccinations,
argument?
i.e. having vaccinations that get rid of the flu, but we have to redo those
Right.
vaccinations every year because the flu becomes stronger.
Okay.
These are the arguments that Nietzsche's making about how we create a self-fulfilling prophecy in which we
Okay.
desire our
Okay,
own
sure.
repression. That's
Sure.
the 1872 evidence.
How does an
provides.
individual who contracts HIV that develops into AIDS become stronger as a result of?
That is happening. The suffering
Right.
as a result of that disease
Right.
is inevitable, which means that
Okay.
you should affirm that suffering.
Well,
You should
you
make
said
the
that
most
it
out of the
makes
values of
individuals
your life that you
stronger.
have while
I'm
your
curious
life is
about
still
what
there.
that process is, that we could say that would be a desirable outcome.
I mean, I think that this is pretty
I think
Like,
this is pretty central. to what you just said.
exemplary,
Okay.
amplified by cancer patients. Like, when
Okay.
you are diagnosed with cancer,
Right?
a poor attitude statistically has shown that death rates are lower when you
Okay.
have a poor attitude
Sure,
when dealing
but
with
regardless
cancer.
of
So embracing
attitude, how
that
does the
suffering,
act of
having a great
contraction-
attitude towards
Yeah,
it
yeah.
probably
So let's talk
affirms your
about
life.
this cancer patient example. So the end goal, even if they take a positive attitude, is to avoid death, correct?
No.
Really?
No, our argument is that if death
The end goal
happens,
of a
it's
cancer
inevitable.
patient
If
is
death
not to
happens,
avoid
it's
death.
supposed to happen.
Okay.
If
So-
someone murders you, is that supposed to happen?
I don't even know how to answer that.
I mean, is it? You just said all death is supposed
Like,
to happen.
literally,
Is
that type
a
of suffering is
justifiable
part
form
of,
death?
is a preventable type of suffering. Like, me physically killing Ryan with my hands is different than Ryan contracting a disease that kills him over a
So-
period of time.
So, okay, that seems like a good distinction to make. Would we, in a world of the alternative, would we respond to disasters?
In the world of the alt, we say that we would reconstruct politics in which in the future, our orientation towards times after those disasters would be better.
I don't know what that means. So imagine a hurricane hits somewhere. Do we send somebody in with like some food and water?
Post-alternative?
Yep.
No, we would just affirm the destruction of
Really?
that suffering. Like natural causes, you guys are giving us great examples of why suffering should be externalized.
I
or
don't
should not be
understand why.
If
this
there's
is like
a-
Katrina, which was a
Literally,
local
Katrina
hurricane,
is a natural
was
disaster
I don't
that we can't
understand why it
prevent.
was
The
a good
Gregorian
thing that
evidence
we couldn't
specifically
prevent.
talks about natural disasters and our responses to them and how we have to orient ourselves around
Okay,
inevitable
you're good.
things like natural disasters being inevitable, and we have to accept that.
It's going to be the case debate.
Wipeout debate not going forward, assuming constant intrinsic permutation. No way they can get any type of offensive permutation test of competition. Not advocacy if it does it because it severs out 100% of the one you see which just out of all of the negative offense makes it possibly negative all. Their human good offense is not often is turned by the criticism, but also not unique offense to the affirmative. They're going to be able to guard any type of unique offense. The reason why you vote affirmative on the wipeout debate not go to the criticism. We'll start on the permutation. The first is the criticism. First group the permutation, the criticism, a question of ethics. If we win the third affirmative initially grounded the ethical assumption that we criticize the alternative. alternative is mutual support advocacy. You also can't perm negative about the alternatives to vote negative and embrace suffering. Anything else would allow either sever out the 180's assumptions or be intrinsic. The alternative also doesn't solve the link. The alternative solves the link. The alternative the ethics of the affirms are two different styles, two ways to live. Not like a new style, not be permed by the singular action. Cannot do that. Cannot serve to solve the negative effects of the way of thinking. Also, any negative thinking claim that the permutation links back to the criticism still endorses the logic of the lesser of evil, deciding advocacy rather than simply affirming oneself is actively good. Also, the permutation still links to the impacts, all of which are access disattach to the permutation for the alternative alone. Also, they all still link to the links to the 1AC that are conceded and across and extended within the 2NC. All those early become disattached to the permutation. Also, the permutation endorses the same ethical framework as the affirmative. Willing something as the lesser of evil, rather affirming as good as itself against contrary to the ethical demand that the internal return do not will what you would not will and will internally. If we don't win, any disattach to the affirmative will still win. It is ethically unsound to endorse something that we'd only half will to lose in 62. As ethical thought, I thought the internal return is a new formulation of practical synthesis, whatever you will, to which such a way that you will also will the internal return of all that you will be beginning to ask yourself a certain I will not do an infinite number of times. That should not be your most solid center of gravity, little compensation, little pleasures, little joys, and little everything that it wants. Great no once and only once everything that can be done again the next day. The only condition that we said the day before tomorrow will give it up the whole. Remember the obsessed one that you would put it from all you all have willing to decide upon the authorities to do upon action what the understood by saying always do. One will first be such can will laziness, stupidity, baseness, cowardice, or their spitefulness that will the internal return can no longer be the same laziness, stupidity, etc. as the thought of the internal recurrence that it selects is making willing something hold. The thought of the internal return eliminates willing everything that which falls outside the internal return and makes it willing. Creation brings about the equation. Willing leads to creation. A good permutation to both. You can't vote negative to embrace suffering, and then embrace suffering, and then do affirmative to do things like eradicate suffering. All the links that become disattached. The links become disattached to the permutation. Also, only our conditional affirmation of life can escape nihilism. Having both ways, merely another expression of slave morality, risk no date. Initially, Nietzsche says the meaning of our suffering that has been the problem, the first possibility considered that we suffering that is desirable, and ultimately the mendacious and deleterious means to provide meaning for human suffering. The second possibility concerns with the which we consider Nietzsche endorses the idea of giving suffering to you. Knowledge is necessary when human hates and greatness to realize that to see suffering unstrivable, something that ultimately be avoided means giving some meaning suffering. Ultimate mendacious Nietzsche significantly corrects both his attack on religious morality and his alternative ideal. We can take this evidence that avoidance of suffering is not the proper attitude. Nietzsche's positive alternative one that embraces the necessary role human suffering has to be enhanced in human life is our attitude toward suffering needs modified, which modifies so no longer see suffering as something to be avoided. Because of this, we in a position of avoiding suffering when possible, then seen as positive attributes when it does occur. Does not recommend itself. This will argue that suffering has a positive necessary role to play. See, avoid as far as possible the acknowledge the positive aspects when it does occur. Does not only and not really acknowledge the said suffering is positive and the necessary role. They also say permutation all other instances. There is no other instance within the debate space that you'd be able to vote for. You can't vote after and then do the alternative. Every other instance, the other instance don't exist outside of this. There is nothing that leaves this debate room, which means that there are any other instances. Means that this instance inherently is a reason why you vote negative. Also, all the links that are isolated within the 2NC as well as links isolated in the 1NC are all reasons why this instance is a reason why you should vote negative now. We'll do the impact debate. This round is about aesthetics come before any question of politics, advocacy, or policy. Go back to the permutation. The permutation severs out the immediacy, the alternative, which is voted for fairness, because it means that they're able to sever out 100% of our advocacy, which is 100% of our advocacy is in. That from above now go to the impact debate. This round is about aesthetics come before any question of politics, advocacy, or policy, because it determines what in life to be about what the value is, the value or impacts first, because person we subsume their impacts all violence is a product of moralism. Moralism establishes violent hierarchies and necessitates violence against all that is different. Our drive to domesticate life, we tend to put a chain on a life of a beast, breaking the chain, put around a snap. We are doomed to frustration, failure, leading to every more and destroying, torture, and submission. All the threats are secure, which also means turns the act, because everything that we try to solve for within the affirmative only comes back twofold, which means there's no way that the affirmative is able to solve this. Also, going on, don't weigh their impacts, pain, and death, our inevitable life will overflow. Every day we build forward to deny this still is only a question whether we affirm suffering or condemn the whether we experience this joy or pain that we affirm can only serve to make us stronger. Everything we experience makes us stronger. Also, life is worthless within that framework. We cannot condemn a part of life without condemning all of it. Denying becoming its innocence and attempting to confine it to certain boundaries and ensures that all of life becomes contemptible. Everything causes pain and everything becomes ugly. We're doomed to wander the earth searching for a purpose. We will never find only affirmation of life and redeem life. And we have some crucifix morality. They say consequentialism, but consequentialism is the same thing as slave morality, which we're reading offense to coming out of the 2NC, which means that they're already going to be winning type of offense here. Additionally, all the links to the 1NC, all the links, this link specifically to the first link of the 1NC, the Charlie evidence says that when we try to create and try for a more perfect world, only that turns the affirmative, because it means that we continue to destroy the world that we have, the world we have now. Additionally, they're making a bunch of arguments why Nietzsche comes first, but I think the regular link here, and this refers to Nietzsche in 1872 evidence from the 1NC, says that when we try to eradicate suffering, it makes extinction more desirable, which means that there's only a probability that extinction becomes inevitable in the world. The affirmative power of the alternative At least takes the right steps to being able to solve that. The Higgs and Rosenberg says that life is extremely valuable. The only way that we can give life any type of value is by the affirmation of the alternative. Also, the Sharon evidence is impact on evidence. It says that extinction is irrelevant because it's about how we relate our lives before extinction happens. Rather, it's about how we have value and whether or not we affirm that value. Also, the will worth the affirmation condemns all that is beautiful becomes valuable only as far as we can correct existence value. It's prior questions at white 90. Artists was we concern with beauty, science, and truth, and morality with God and see morality may be defensive against goodness and attempt to avoid knowledge, but the true goodness of the required.
No, it's
Look, the negative debate ran a bunch of cards blocked by there's a couple key distinctions missing. First, start with the framework debate should have to not only be about academic values, but they also have to then apply to what it looks like in the real world. So the framework you should extend the interpretation of the action of the plaintiffs preferred the status quo or realistically achievable alternative. You do not get to weigh their impacts in a theoretical academic order, but what happens when this applies to the real? There's a couple of reasons why mechanism focus is good. A someone is key to abstract. Any other purpose justifies taking out one word of the one you see. There are thousands of ways to generate mentioned infinitely regressive and possible to generate office. B someone is promotes better critical education, forces the negative to apply to a particular policy, and instead of just pressing the argument, they have not had a theoretical defense of why the affirmative should, why their negative critique should come prior to this necessary cheating, which is the reason why you should reject the alternative on the honest face. They say the alternative prior question. However, if A some point is not alternative for a prior question to be cheating, A some point is key to resource for these reciprocity yang to win the impact based on the plan on our representation. We should be allowed to use those as the often. Second of all, this non-logical pedagogy is not exclusive policy. Policies are the end point of methods that are created. The plan is implicitly tied to the for pedagogy. They are making this role of the ballot argument. The role of the ballot simply signifies a win-loss. This is empirically true. It's multiple teams because Louisville and Port and a bunch of other teams have always decided I am not about to go give up on life just because you vote against us. In fact, I am probably going to do the exact opposite because I'm indignant that my value life is to take, which proves to have B some point is that this is infinitely aggressive because it means the negative can always find some arbitrary way to exclude the way that you have forever have done. We lose the entire one. We lose the office means we have to start all over the two. He's voted for competitive activity. Same debate doesn't leave the room. No shit, it doesn't leave the room. But you conceded multiple reasons to vote for a A. Some point is that the app is an impact turn to your method because they all just solve, which means that the opportunity cost of voting negative is being able to respond to the status quo with the solar power generators to multiple disasters. You see, I'm going to do that impact work here. A. Some point is 7.1 nuclear brown meltdowns into massive amount of radiation exposure causes extinction. B. Some point is chemical plate explosion. C. Some point is disease. You know, all the nearest extinction. The second reason why you think the debate is leave room is we have an independent advantage. You know, I answer Kurosawa is going to be a pretty big role. It's the reason why debating dystopian imagery is because suffering the world is good because it transforms the debate society into a weak civil society. It makes the debate community more ethical. It's rather than focusing on our individual self, which is what the alternative progresses to, we create cosmetological relationships with others, which is the reason why suffering exists in the first place, because I ignore the other, but the way the framework is set want to see is we must be concerned with others, which means that we all function have a uniqueness to our framework that addresses the bunch of the problem. Also, there's a key variation for any type of framework or reserve. K is a bunch of uncertainty. You have to be 100% sure they're winning all of the cases if you're willing to risk extinction of the alternative. Also, the entire premise of all of the K is not falsifiable. Mayor in 1999, there was a combination of that they're trying to place really problems. There's a potential blindly body serious question. None of these are absolute truths. The other way that we find the way falls wrong. This is 100% right with their place and rejecting tool of absolute truth cycle. Their girls are beyond falsification. I have no clue what they're talking about. If you just think that maybe one me or made a life live in the debate, that means you as a judge do not have the ethical choice to be able to do that because you should not be able to deny us alive. I'm going to do the extinction debate right here before everything else. There are three key figurations. A someone is there's a clear link differential. None of the cards assume the choice of the alternate extinction. Maybe we should embrace things like migraines or guilt for these type of things, but we should not accept forced choice of extinction, especially if there's a plausible way to act on how this man. B also death is the ultimate evil pattern. 3. Death is an objective evil because it also allows you to choice the current subject that it's an automatic evil because more records already exist. The change is kind of brings about a sort of type and heading of anything that are asking the reason the process of maintaining the person existence to objective evil for the person in incident or rejection of human life cannot be more distinct expression of ultimately evil developed by the president, which should not be able to see to destroy the place of resources of all human possibility. Second, free revenues to an accident reports outweigh morality suffering. Boston says we have no clue what future generation will be capable people. Maybe they will create a world where there's literally zero suffering, but you voting negative for closest possibility. I do not know if a child will be born the next day that maybe somehow managed to escape all suffering in the world. He should not for closer possibility, because maybe they'll do something truly great with over the third key bringing you to that even if they are entirely right about the K, who as a judge cannot ethically make this decision for other people. It is fine that if you personally want to embrace the alternative, but you cannot do that. We win any of our extinction impacts because you can do it. Extend the clinical and community. I mean, humans are rational human beings, which means you must treat them as their own entities. It's the only way to affirm the value of their life, which means if eternally the K. Also, force extinction eternally turns the K to least a nice time. Except those cases where the pain is freely chosen, pain is anti-meaning, meaningless, and the meaning takes away the lost meaning of the exterior plane. Your old lips are anti-Christian, being the argument of life, is because I'm like I mentioned, realize from this most obvious you should play. That any meaning is still all the link, you have not, I've already done this above, you have not established a link to what the 1AC extinction impacts which are separated from this with the permutation will get over resolved in a second. This is surviving the form of back, but however, we have impacts and focus on survival because that's the cure, solve I would extend on fair to be. So what is the absolute shout says that even if extinction all the time death and evil postponing actually gives us action life because it's something for us to do rather than sitting around our assets and doing nothing. I'll show you because see I don't think they're very good. They say the attempt to control chaos about we have impact turn this with the May evidence and rejection of politics, the idea of world trying to deny life eternally turn to the whole critique. Also, this is from the case debate. You can see that third type of framework accepting extinction leads to things like the Holocaust and genocide in the first place, which means that only accepting death is inevitable. Is the reason why these suffering happen. They say suffering is suffering bad. Yes, suffering is inevitable, but there's a difference between the suffering of the one you see and the suffering that they have fundamentally completed this frustration with things like migraines, things that are out of our control. But with the one you see is not out of control because you can see that because of the great collapse. On the permutation, I think the permutation is the result of one. Permutation, you can do permutation do both, which means that you can choose to embrace the suffering forms or not embrace the suffering forms that the link evidence is talking about. But you can also choose a face, acting in the face of extinction is good thing because the existential risk should not be accepted. I think this is pretty established in the crossings. I think the crossings legitimacy proof that they say that we can't act in the face of certain things. For example, she is not allowed to kill because it's a preventable death. The AF is clearly a preventable death, and there's a say opportunity cost of actionable risk because all those impacted burns. I'm going to answer their permutations. They say in the question of ethics, things that I evidence, you can only evaluate ethics by evaluating the consequence of action because the right leads to absolute moral problems which is impacted by the 7 that causes things like Holocaust and permutation valid. I'm going to answer the role of valid framework arguments. So if they say that we need net benefits, that's stupid. It presents not competitive. Also, net benefits entirely after why external choice is bad, and also why life affirmation is a good thing. Permutation severance, it does not sever because you only read a link about we say death is bad, but extinction impacts are good, and even if severance is justified by framework arguments, and independently our net benefits and methodology outweigh because it happens. Yeah, and also there's no root cause of the case because natural disasters aren't caused by humans.
How much time do we have? Oh, wait, we used 2. We have 2:40.
I'm just going to go to the framework debate, then the link debate, and then the permutation debate, and then everything below that will be in the linear order. I'm just basically moving the perm from the bottom of the flow to the middle.
Linear concedes that we made argument coming out of the 2 NCM. We well know we meet where that's cool in the framework argument. We have a net benefit of this
scientific interpretation, we say the role of the policymaker is inherently that it's respond on nihilism because it's based upon respond on the desire for a better world, which means that you become a nihilistic policymaker within this round of people. If you cast your ballot for the affirmative team before one decides to take the nihilistic role of the policymaker, you must first decide what the prior question of the attitude that we take towards life is. We have a couple of arguments to support this. First is the below evidence cold conceded coming out of 1AR that's coming from the alternative debate says that the alternative is the only way to confront the balance of the 1AC by engaging in a political reconstruction, which means that we are a prior question. She says the prior questions are uniquely bad because it's an excuse negative ground before the debate to be about the instrumental desirability imposes mastery and slavery and formal politics this is the Newman evidence that you're conceding coming out of the 1AR. It says that the ballot must be used in ethical action. There's still not a role of the ballot coming out of the 1AR is how your ballot functions. The role just says you should uphold policy making. But the Newman in 2000 evidence is the only role of ballot claim in this debate so far. It says the ballot must be used in ethical action because instead of role playing, we have to transform personal relationship with suffering before we can solve this. I'll talk about this more on the alternative debate. We're also going to go for white in 90, which I think answers back the bulk of your standards of why you're frank to be preferable. The white 90 evidence cold conceded says a question of political consideration. Miss the point of the criticism. You don't get access to your use because of your affirmative because we indict the methodology of 1AC. The ballot is an ethical choice to save ourselves. So you say this would be a uniquely worse value to life. You should never be robbed from that value to life. All the way extrapolated on this more, but the ethical choice to save ourselves is about how we reorient ourselves towards the suffering, how we embrace this type of suffering. Also, the Cadence 7 evidence says that nothing happens when you vote affirmative as cold as conceded coming out of the 1AR says that instead you should vote negative as a means of establishing an ethical relationship with suffering. I do the analysis above on why it's would be uniquely true if we win that the alternative's good in the abstract and the reason to vote affirmative, then you were not going to pull the trigger on the framework debate. Also, she's conceding our methodology turn coming out of the 2NC that says that if your act methodology is flawed, then you should always weigh the impacts of flawed methodologies before you weigh the impacts of the 1AC. You're conceding this prioritization argument is bottom of the framework debate coming out of the 2NC that says that your type of policy making, the affirmative framework, would justify saying bad things like racism as long as it has a justifiable endpoint, which internal link turns all of your arguments about how role playing and policy making leads to best political action because none of that political action leads to debate space, even if you can win that it reinvigorates your life. Link debate. I'm going to go for link for two specific links in Thomas's debate. It's going to be the Derderian evidence. You should flag your Derderian evidence on your flow to read after the debate because it speaks to the great specificity of the disaster and disease part of the 1AC Derderian parallels the current political climate to the inescapable securitized Bush administration, where we were literally helpless in the face of disasters like a trade. I'm glad you brought up in cross-examination because the first piece of Derderian evidence on the link debate specifically indicts realist policy-based discourse says that when we rely on securitized perceptions of the world, we functionally create a simulation. The conceded Baudrillard evidence indicates that when we function from within the simulation, separate death and suffering from the naturalized human condition, we're doomed to becoming mindless within the simulation, recreating disaster tenfold. She's not only do we get a link because you're disaster foreign and you're cleaning up the aesthetic idea, but we also get a link to your securitization. You're conceding the link, which means that you don't get access to the link turn. Your May evidence isn't extended, but I think that our flow evidence is pretty good answer says that the balance of the 1AC should be engaged in a political reconstruction. The end point of this cause says that the Socratic base of argumentation, the way that these institutions of academia and the intelligent room that we stand in favors the pure decisionism of Nietzsche's theory because things like the ballot does not leave the room other than being a winner or loss. The internal evidence talk about the weakness of philosophical and traditional of argumentation specifically. Moreover, the second argument we're going to go for here, or the second argument we're going to go for on the link debate specifically is the Canaan 7 evidence says the affirmative is fixated on ending suffering like disease, which is inevitably not going to be able to solve by the 1AC because things like disease are always going to happen. The internals this card actually give us a tourniquet that says if we try to intervene and solve things like suffering, it just creates worse forms of diseases that we'll never be able to live on, which means that we die. This is a turn to the app that is cold conceded death impact. Also, the Derderian evidence, the securitization impact has an impact there. The securitization argument on linked debate has an impact. The secondary card says that this type of negative synergy creates a cascading effect of catastrophe that we'll never be able to check, which means that we have two turns a case per mutation. She's missing the essential point of our rhetorical criticism. We say that your 1AC is a rhetorical artifact that we must examine within the debate space. You can't perm a negative ballot because the alternatives vote negative. You should put them down on intrinsicness or the severance arguments that are coming out of the 1 and are here. They're just reasons why you should reject the permutation. Also, the alternative doesn't solve the link. She's not even making a no-link argument coming out of the 1AR, which means that we have a disadvantage of the permutation. The securitization of the 1AC is still also the delusion 62 evidence says that they perm and endorse the same ethical framework as the affirmative, which is inherently bad. If you go to the alternative extend the Risley evidence, the Risley no date evidence on the permutation to both only our unconditional affirmation of life can escape mass, which means the permutation can't solve any of the criticism. Also go to the bottom level of the alternative debate. You should extend the Risley evidence says that we should reorient ourselves and embrace suffering as something positive and necessary to life. This is going to solve for a couple of reasons. First of all, it literally short circuits all of our arguments about how the debate doesn't leave the room and you have to figure out your own value to life because it says that we reorient ourselves in this side of this intelligent debate space. The below evidence indicates that this type of reorientation is ultimately better because it creates a reconfiguration of politics, which means that we would better access the internal link to your policy making arguments rather than you would. Moreover, on the suffering debate, there's going to be a couple of reasons
why you're going to reject the 1AR concedes the suffering example says that there are some types of suffering that are bad. Nietzsche would agree. Women shouldn't be raped, racist, and pretty messed up, and that's not the intent of art. Nietzsche says that the eternal state of raison will cause us to externalize trivial sufferings that are inevitable. I think that's made pretty clear in CX, the 1 and C. There is a differentiation between inevitable suffering and suffering as part of the human condition, and preventable suffering not only makes it pretty clear that even though we created the grid, solar fires and other potential capacities outside of our control would wreck the grid, this act is literally a disaster response case, supercharged link to criticism. 1AC functionally concedes that suffering lies like the 1AC happens in. Ease the link to the aesthetic ideal by literally proposing this. Also go to the impact debate. There's a couple of reasons why you're going to prefer life is worthless within the world of the affirmative. Nietzsche 1872 evidence says that we desire our own repression. Death is irrelevant if we don't have value. The Keenan 7 says that only through affirmation of life can we ignore the horror of this need that they win that extinction happens. The world's going to turn the chorn. And 34 evidence says that even if extinction was a real risk, as long as we have some sort of meaning to life, we find extinction life is not intrinsically valuable unless we have value to life. While even the alternatives do that. She said the consequentialism is good, but consequentialism is a form of slave morality because it allows us to arbitrarily order people, and the consequences of these type of actions leads to the type of slave and herd morality that Nietzsche says is bad. Look, it's morally reprehensible to endorse the death of 8 billion people if you're uncertain about whether or not you're doing that to a good end. They say they mean because the status quo. However, our framework is that the affirmative should win. The action of the plan is preferable to the status quo or realistically attainable political alternative. That means that the 1AC is not a rhetorical artifact, and we should be allowed to both permuting and weigh the 1AC. They're also not the status quo because the status quo doesn't embrace suffering, which is a reason why this is incompetitive. The role of the battle is just to signify a win or a loss to the tabor. If we win the death and extinction are bad, then that means that we meet their Newman evidence that says that we should focus on ethical prior oppression because an ethical statement would be for you to give to avoid those things are bad. The Isaac evidence says that the only way to realistically weigh the costs and benefits is to understand the consequences of your action because there are inevitably going to be some trade-offs that occur, but only by looking at the big picture can you avoid the moral television that allows the Holocaust, that allows terrible atrocities to happen. The Kurosawa evidence also contains, is also an answer to Newman evidence. It's also an answer to Newman evidence because it's an offensive reason why we can transform the debate community and the debate space into a weak civil society that's capable of forming empathetic relationships and increasing value to life while avoiding major catastrophes. They say that the act doesn't have a role. It's about that was the answer to both. It only signifies a win or a loss to the tabor. There's also a white 90 evidence that's talking about questions of political contestation is subsumed by the Isaac evidence because the Isaac evidence was explained about the Kane evidence says that we can ignore the things that happen in the abstract if the methodology fails. It doesn't matter. They can see that their methodology is not falsifiable, which means that they have a much larger indite to their method than we do. There should be reciprocal. You should not just vote the affirmative down because it could be a paper and the paper might be a B+. That's still good enough, and we're still reasonable as to why we would be winning the impacts. There's no contextualization to the affirmative, which means that you should believe that these theories of true. They say it justifies the racism good. This is silly. If we got up and said racism is good for the 9 minutes, the one is could just impact which is the check. Against these kind of morally reprehensible arguments. They also didn't answer the reasons why the act should be viewed as the plan is key to competitive equity. So I'm not going to spend a bunch of time that it's key to after because any other alternative justifies picking out one award the 1AC which is infinitely arrested also leads to better K education because it would theoretically force them to apply the K to the affirmative which they haven't done. They say it's a disaster response when in fact the response is nevertheless only a question of whether we respond with solar or diesel generators, which is a key distinction that would lead to them having better critical education that they don't get. They've also conceded that pedagogy and it cannot be separated from policy. The role of the valid ethical arguments only signifies a win-loss to the tabor, and that's been proved by teams like Louisville or Emporia who have to keep running arguments about why we need to challenge racism because individuals just go out and do things like cut answers to T. I'm not going to give up on my meaning life because of this debate right. I'm just going to figure out a better reason to answer Nietzsche. Is that good? Yeah. Good. On the extension for first debate, there's two. They had a bunch of ticky-tacky issues about why some kinds of life might be more meaningful than others, but there's two major framing issues. First is that there's a massive differential between extinction and in suffering, which isn't substantiated in any of their cards. Extinction is unique to bad for two reasons. One, it's unethical for you as a judge to choose it because things like because it means that individuals can't choose their to least evidence, especially it's in the one I was really good about this because it talks about how those kinds of force choose in a terrible day. Also, there's no question of certainty, which is our bostrom, because we don't know what future people could do or whether it could stop. Something the Patterson evidence is conceded. It says that death is objectively evil because it destroys individual agency, which means there's no potential for future. Our chemical evidence also says that you should take that choice away for future to others. They say that life is worth it. It doesn't matter. There's still going to be valuable life. Creative evidence says that this kind of valuable life are infinite because we can still find joy. We can still find joy in small things. Our chemical evidence says people should have the choice. Yep. The alternative can't solve this because it's not falsifiable. Our Mayer evidence says psychoanalysis still uses means there's no spillover and there's no way to erect broader change in the type of the permutation debate. You can endorse the permutation functions that you can endorse that suffering is good but extinction is bad, and so you can accept the one I see as a reasonable step that can be engaged in preventable or the one I see can prevent preventable deaths, which means that the alternative cannot solve because we would still do things like respond to disaster, which we shouldn't just sit on our hand when a hurricane hits Katrina because then we would allow human beings to suffer needlessly, which is why they get to the point in crossovers where they don't understand how to answer the question about whether or not we should shoot individuals. This is particularly important in the context of the ISIS card because it means that we can't just allow these things to happen because if we have the ability to prevent them, then we should take steps to ask life.
Life affirming the maze.
It's also life affirming the maze card, and the maze card in the Epstein-Dow card says that we can take stands to take steps. Yeah, we can take steps against the government. We can take steps to reaffirm value life. Their intrinsic severance arguments don't exist because to justify because our framework justifies us to be able to make permutation because we don't have to defend the entirety. Then when I see the risk evidence about unconditionality isn't applied to the affirmative, so I don't understand why it's able to turn at the top of the link debate. They say deterrent evidence doesn't matter. It's not a question of response, but whether we respond to diesel versus solar or death versus something. It would explain like cases able to solve or why we're taking stance against these able to solve things like the Holocaust because the Linus evidence says that we're able to solve. There's no chance of disaster forming because Yevta and Zhao and Kurosawa evidence means that we respond to these things in a positive way. The BSL-4 is different than the kinds of disease fixation that they're talking about because there's no vaccines.